are live.
Hello and welcome to the Sunset Safari here on Safari Live. We are coming to you out of Djuma and Arathusa private game reserves in the world famous Sabi Sand Game Reserve. You're on camera today with myself, Stefan Winterboer, and Tsepiso. And we have got a lady giraffe to open for you with today. You can see how elegant those horn tips are. They are fur covered, and that is why from this distance I can tell that she's a lady. Very, very pretty young woman. I say young because she's in very good condition actually. Generally when giraffes get a little bit older, they have a variety of different scars and patches of hairless fur all over their, or hairless skin all over their bodies. And that's because they are quite susceptible to mange. Now, we're going to go forward a little bit just so that we can see her. She's now of them here. Let's go a little bit more forward so that we can see them. It is a hot afternoon. Probably see from our very shiny head. It's about 90 degrees Fahrenheit or 33 or 34 degrees centigrade right now. Oh, we actually have 4 giraffes here. 3 giraffes, excuse me. I'm just going to pass her a little bit. Let's see what she does. They are in typical woodland that we find giraffe in. That's a terminalia thicket that she is walking in at the moment, and they are frequent feeders on terminalia, acacia and coniferas. That is what they enjoy the most, or the corkwoods. One of the few animals that can actually eat a corkwood and find it tasty. And I don't know if you've been told this by the other presenters from time to time, but giraffes have one of the most efficient digestive systems out of any of the ruminants or any of the animals that we find out here. One of the most efficient. They eat less food per kilogram of body weight than any of the other animals around here. They're incredibly good at drawing every last little scrap of nutrients and water out of the food that they eat. The unfortunate cost of that is that they have to eat very high quality food. The nice thing about that is that giraffes are very good indicators, therefore, of the health of your bush. So if you do happen to have an acacia, conifera, terminalia, woodland piece of bush that you call your own, and you have a lot of giraffe that seem to be doing very well in your bush, they are indicator species that things are going very, very well. Now I'm going to turn around. That giraffe looks like she's going to the road actually. There's a road down there. Let's go forward and see. Kat sent through a comment that says she would kill for those eyelashes. And I absolutely agree with you. I think my wife would agree with you 100%. That having eyelashes as long as a giraffe's is definitely beneficial. The reason, of course, that they have those long eyelashes is so that they can feed as deep as they possibly can into a bush, and the eyelashes are there to let their lids know when to close, so that they can close their eyelids tightly in case a thorn pokes their eye. Now, what's very interesting is that there is a hypothesis, a theory, that says that some trees have developed distinct defense mechanisms particular to the giraffe. In other words, acacias, for lack of a better word, have developed these massively long thorns, these long sharp thorns, specifically to deter giraffe from feeding on their leaves. Now I'm going to quickly ask Tsepiso to zoom out and show you how long these acacia thorns are. Right here next to me happens to be an acacia tree. And there you go. You can have look at these wickedly sharp thorns. And acacias have really developed a stunning number of thorns everywhere from hooked thorns to sharp, long thorns like this, to paired sharp thorns, to combinations of hooked and sharp thorns. And you can have a look at how small the acacia has made its leaves and how big it's made its thorns, and that's to look as unappetizing as possible from a distance. Obviously it hasn't worked. The giraffe are cleverer than that. And alright, wow, and 1.5 tons of giraffe have just quickly disappeared into the bush in front of us. We can go change direction a little bit so we can keep them in view. I hope wherever you are in the world that you've been having a good time between the drives today. Here it's been a fairly quiet day. I must be honest, I'm not quite sure what day it is anymore. I'm sure it's a Tuesday today. But it's been a fairly quiet day here. Nothing much going on. Hey, giraffe on their way to the road. I think let's see if we can go forward. I'm hoping that they actually go and end up at Djuma Dam. It looks like they're on their way there for a drink. Giraffe being so super efficient at getting as much nutrients as they can from the plants they eat, don't really need to drink every day. They'll drink when water is available, but they are fairly drought resistant. Hoping that doesn't stop these giraffe from going for a drink. They are when looking at them drink, obviously trying to get that big, or that head, not that big, that long neck with that head that's so far away from their bodies down to the water is no mean feat. And our two directors, Kirsty and Jerry, have just let me know that Jamie would really like to say hello too. So while we position ourselves to get a better view of these giraffe, off you go, and I'm sure we'll see you in a bit.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Sunset Safari. I think I might have found the run non-pregnant kudu on Djuma for once. I'm just trying to double check and see. Nope, that's a non-pregnant kudu. That's an achievement for the last few. Oh no, I think she's pregnant. I think she's just not as far along as the others. No, she's pregnant. Oh well, I thought I'd found the one non-pregnant kudu on Djuma, but it is in fact another pregnant kudu. It's amazing. I mean, we know that kudu have a peak breeding time, and that's clearly around about now. In my experience, it's always a little bit earlier than this, but obviously with this year's weather and last year's weather conditions, with the lack of rain, it's just been ever so slightly delayed. And that's not a conscious decision on the animal's part, but I do think that there's a biological factor. Because I've also noticed with a lot of the female impala, there's still far more late pregnancies than I think I've personally ever seen. I'm guessing that is because of the drought. And she's nice and relaxed, so I think we should be able to get another view of her. Clearer view. She's hidden in the trees. Hey, gorgeous. She's actually looking quite thin. Her ribs are starting to show. I don't know if that's because the pregnancy is pulling down, or if she's struggling to get the nutrition she needs. Come on, girl. That was not very considerate. That beautiful, graceful, long neck. And I'm not sure, and I'm really hoping that after the rain that we had a couple of days ago, that we might get a little bit more this evening. So that animals like this beautiful kudu can actually get a little bit more to sustain them. See how her ears every so often face backwards to where she's just been. And even though I think she's perfectly comfortable with our presence, there's that completely subconscious aspect to the way that she moves. She just twitches her ears back ever so slightly. And just quickly, in case new viewers were wondering, my name is Jamie and I have Brian on camera with me this afternoon. Just to say hello to you all. The thumb made more than a cameo appearance there. That, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, was not in any way Brian's fault. Sometimes this fluid head unlocks itself quite unexpectedly, and it's made for an amusing few moments over the last few days, but that, I think, tops them all. That was pretty impressive. And that's a beautiful kudu. And of course, to see to see them is always a wonder, because they are quite shy. But Jason, you were saying a kudu is like a bigger Inyala, and yes, all part of the same family, and essentially evolved for a very similar niche in terms of the habitat that they occupy and the food that they eat. Now, they're all part of the Traphalagus, if you want to get technical, or the spiral-horned antelope family, if you don't want to get technical. And that includes the smallest member, which is the bushbuck. The kudu is probably the biggest member that you're most likely to see on a safari, on a live safari, that is. But you never know, you might get really lucky and spot the largest antelope both in this family and in the world, and that is the eland. A huge antelope the size of a buffalo and even taller, up to close to a ton in weight. And speaking of large antelope and other bovid species, Steph is still with his giraffe, so let's pop back over there.
Now we just managed to see, we just got visual of one of the giraffes. It's not the same giraffe you were having a look at about a minute or two ago. This is one of her partners. It's a slightly younger giraffe. Now you may be asking me, how long do giraffe live for? And the giraffe live for about 16 years, believe it or not. And if they can make it past their first year, they've got a good chance of making it until they're 16 years old. However, it's that first year which is the big problem. About half to 3/4 of all giraffes that are born in a year fall prey to lion and hyena and crocodile and human in areas where humans still live off the bush. And so they've responded by being they're one of the few mammals that double in size in their first year. So baby giraffe are born, they're born about 6 feet tall. And in their first year, they get to 12 feet. And then from there on, they top out for big males at about 5.5 meters, which is roughly, about 16 or 17 feet above the ground. And females get to about 3.5 meters, 3.5, 4 meters. Or 4.5 meters, actually, excuse me. 4.5 meters for a female, 5.5 meters for a male. So 13 or 14 feet for a female and 16 or 17 feet for a male. Here comes another giraffe. There's just two of them in this journey. They don't form herds with one another. There is no herd. All giraffe form groups from time to time and will break apart from time to time as well. It's just beneficial for female giraffe to want to stick together, because having more eyes and ears scanning the bush for predators mean that their babies definitely have a better chance of spotting or not being spotted by and caught by a lion. You can have a look at the beautiful color that she is. She's got this real deep, dark, chocolatey brown at the saddle on her back, and then she goes into an almost pure white on her belly and flanks. Full-grown giraffe, fully mature. Now, some giraffe are blonde and some giraffe are brunette. And they get a bit darker as they get older, but generally speaking, if a giraffe is born light, it'll get a little bit darker, but it won't turn very dark. And if a giraffe is born brunette, it'll get darker. I've seen almost black giraffe. She's a more blonde giraffe. And that bird that you're seeing, a red-billed oxpecker, meticulously combing the hair for any parasites, keeping the giraffe's fur nice and clean, and at the same time providing itself with a meal. A bit of an abstract fact is that the type of symbiosis that the red-billed oxpecker has with the giraffe is, it almost seems like that it's a bit confused, I think is the word that I'm looking for. The reason for that is that it would seem that both the bird and the giraffe benefit from the relationship, and that is precisely what's happening right now. But the red-billed oxpecker also eats a lot of blood. And when, and should, a giraffe have a scratch on her, the oxpeckers have been known to keep that scratch and that cut open for a lot longer than what is necessary, keeping the wound open. Some scientists say it's beneficial to the giraffe to have the wound kept open. All the dead skin and necrotic flesh gets eaten off and it promotes blood flow. Others say that it's a bit unnecessary and would therefore move into parasitism. So of the two symbiotic relationships that is being exhibited at the moment, we are seeing commensalism, or mutualism, I think it's actually the word, where both parties benefit. But it can also be parasitism, where one party benefits and the other one is harmed in the process. Right now though, I think that giraffe is really enjoying being combed. They do look like they're having fun. These birds actually line the nests. They nest in holes in trees, and they actually line their nests with fur gathered from animals. You can see how easy it would be for them to get that fur. Now, because giraffes' necks are so long, babies are actually born while the females are standing. Most other mammals would lie down, either lie down on their sides or lie down with their heads up. Giraffe mothers don't do that. And the reason for that is that it's very difficult for them to reach the birth canal. And so babies actually fall out, head and feet first, fall onto the ground from all that distance away. That knocks out the fluid and the mucus from the lungs and causes the baby to have its first breath. And will also snap the umbilical cord, which is necessary for the whole birthing process to reach its terminal point. I mean, I must say, that birth canal that you're having a look at there underneath the tail is taller than I am, and I stand 6 feet, just over 6 feet tall. I've got to know, coming into this world with a thump. Long tail, beautifully long hair at the end there, used as a bit of a flower whisk. She will whisk her flanks, as you see there, whipping that long fur up her flanks, flicking at the flies. She's in very good condition. Giraffe, you can always tell if they're in bad condition. If you look under the tail, between the legs on the bum cheeks or the thighs, giraffe in bad condition carry massive tick loads. Now, although there are lots of ticks there, every one of those little black speckles underneath her tail is a tick. It is about the number that I'd expect. A giraffe carrying a massive tick load actually carries them like grapes. They hang there, you can actually not see the fur in those areas. They look sick. enormous thigh muscles. Giraffe have the hardest kick of any of the mammals in Africa. Can you imagine the amount of leverage that they can put onto those flying hooves using muscles that big? Could easily kill a lion. And they will kick with their back legs, they will stomp with their feet, they kick with their front legs as well, they kick out forward. Mothers put up quite a fight to try and save their babies. And Genevieve in New York has asked if rain deters ticks temporarily. Genevieve, not that I've seen. I've never had the pleasure of having ticks climb onto me in a rainstorm. However, I have been very infrequently out in the bush in a rainstorm. I wouldn't be able to tell you from personal experience. And I haven't seen rain wash ticks off of any animal. I haven't seen them be any less full of ticks after rain. So I can only imagine that the answer to that question would be no, as I'm sitting here right now, Genevieve, unless you have some experience to change my mind. And of course, on that note, for those of you who have just joined the show for the first time or are watching for the first couple of times, you are welcome to send comments, just random comments about the show and about what we're watching, or questions through to us. We'll try and get through as many as we can. You can use the Twitter handle hashtag Safari Live, or you can email us using questions at WildEarthTV. And look at this, we've got now this giraffe has quartered back, coming right past us. And Monique, all the way from freezing London, has asked, since giraffe babies come out so specialized, they come out without the mother landing down and plop out onto the ground, do some giraffe babies get hurt? Now, Monique, I have to say that I've never seen an injured giraffe baby from a birth. Giraffe have a lot of babies. They don't have a lot of babies at one time, but you find that healthy populations of giraffe grow relatively quickly. They, as far as I know, have quite elastic bones, and the fall doesn't do too much. I'm sure a bruise or two would appear. Nothing can fall from that height without much of an injury, but I've never seen it be detrimental to the baby giraffe. Not really. Now we're going to try and go down the road a little bit. We've got one giraffe on our right hand side and we've got two giraffe on our left, and I want to see if we can see them before they go into the thick bush here. That's not going to happen too easy. My immobilizer has activated, which means we have to quickly cross to Jamie at some point before I change where my car is. We're gonna have this giraffe cross the road. I think let's watch her cross the road if she's gonna do that. No, she's not gonna cross, so I think it'll be safe for us to quickly go through to Jamie, and we'll start the car and reposition. We'll be with you very shortly.
Well, Steph's stuck at the giraffe crossing. We've made our way onto Arathusa to explore the various options here. Just a quick update from this morning for those of you who may have missed it. This morning we tracked a leopard that one of the viewers, I think it was Deb, had heard on the dam camera at about 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm fairly certain, of course, it's always supposition, fairly certain that it was Mbula that we were tracking. He came down sort of the middle of Djuma from Buffelshoek and then crossed all the way east. We tracked him all the way east into Torchwood. And he popped his way over that boundary and into there. And I suspect it's Mbula just in terms of territorial likelihood. We know that that area is more Mbula's territory than Tingana's, but you never know, because Tingana has been seen before coming out of Torchwood. Ah, how lovely. Somebody here to chat to. How's it, Troy? How are you? Hi, guys.
Got a kid.
You too?
Yeah, that's on this side.
Okay, awesome.
So
Thanks.
Tingana this morning in the east.
In the east? Okay.
Maybe far away.
Maybe it was him I was tracking this morning through Djuma.
So
His tracks crossed Djuma and popped out on Cheetah Cut Line and into Torchwood.
Yes.
It was him. Okay, perfect. Thanks. All right, awesome. Have a good afternoon.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. I stand corrected. It was Tingana we were tracking, apparently, or most likely. Roy's just told me that they found Tingana far in the east. That's interesting. So that's a couple of times now that he's really pushed into Mbula's territory. Very interesting indeed, and I wonder whether that's not a result of the Anderson male pushing more onto Tingana's western boundary. That's interesting. Goes to show as well that you should never assume too much about the identity of a leopard if you're just looking at his footprints. There's one of two really, most likely, just by the size of the tracks. Then the other update that I have from this morning is just to let you know, interestingly, that I went to go and visit the Gallagher shortcut den with Brian this morning, and the first thing that hit us was an overwhelming smell of decay. And I did a bit of a walk around just to make sure that it wasn't a piece of carcass that hyenas had brought through to the den, and I stopped and had a sniff right at the entrance to one of the holes, and it was clearly coming from there. Now remember that female that James said he heard calling at the entrance to the den? We had her as well at the Gallagher shortcut den calling, and we never saw the cubs. I strongly suspect, that's fact, okay, we know that female was calling, and we found this very smelly den site at Gallagher shortcut den, which also explains why the cubs were moved when they were. My guess, and I would say 90% certain, you never know, I could well be wrong. My guess is that female lost her cubs somehow. I'm not going to go so far as to guess how. There's a couple of different options that we'll never know. I tried looking down into the den to just confirm it, but I was not going to go sticking any body parts or anything like that down there to try and figure it out. It's a very sad situation. Whether or not it's connected to the skirmish that we had 2 days ago, we'll never know. I suspect it might be though. I'm not sure why I do though. That's complete supposition on my part. But those are just the two major updates that we had from this morning. I'm making my way along Arathusa. I'm going to check out the drainage lines. The guys are saying that there's no updates from here, so I'm just going to do a quick loop through the drainage lines and then make my way back towards Djuma. Because you never know what's around the next corner, you just have to not stop believing. Let's go and see what we can find. And exciting news as well, can you believe it? But Mr. Scott Dyson is back tomorrow afternoon as well. I'm sure you're all very excited to see both him and Miss Nikki Austin returning to Djuma. okay, in Texas, after our thumb sighting that turned into an unexpectedly long and more exposed thumb sighting than either Brian or myself expected, but was highly entertaining. Kay in Texas would like to know if the thumb is a righty or a lefty.
Thumb is a lefty. I'm left-handed by trade.
Hey, there you go. Brian is a lefty, therefore the thumb is lefty. The thumb has certainly become a character all of its own. Brian's supreme artistic skills coming through. The wonderful thing, my favorite thing about the thumb is that you just never know when it's gonna pop up and say hello. It means you gotta keep watching, you gotta keep paying attention, or you might miss it. Unless, of course, the fluid head collapses, in which case you could have a much more protracted sighting than you ever expected to have. Okie dokie. What is down this way? It's raining over the mountains, I will say that. Just as I'm driving along, I can see it. Hopefully, that bodes well for us as well. It'd be nice. Those clouds look a little bit heavier than usual. Interesting question from Billy. As we passing the luxurious Arathusa Lodge, Billy actually would like to know where there's places where humans still live off the bush, so in the bush itself, and rely on the resources that it provides, and where and what sort of numbers. Now, within South Africa, there's no place where that I can think of, short of maybe some of the last few remaining Khoisan people. And by last few remaining Khoisan people, I mean, I read an article recently that one of the Khoisan languages, there's only 4 people left who actually are fluent in it, in terms of it being their native language. So a culture that has really, really sadly started to die out. And even then, I would say that they no longer live in the completely natural way that they used to. So within South Africa itself, there's very few places where people live off the land entirely. You know, they still have access to shopping centers, and I'm just making a decision quickly about my route. I think we're going to go this way. My favorite drainage lines in Arathusa. I can't actually think of a specific people that would live entirely off the land. That being said, the land is still absolutely of vital importance to a number of different South African cultures, and especially in rural, for example, rural KwaZulu-Natal, where you're talking a good couple of 100,000 people, millions of people actually, that live in rural settlements, both there and within the Limpopo and Mpumalanga area where we are at the moment. Where yes, people will still, although they have access to shopping centers, there will still be an aspect of relying on the land, and there's still traditional cures for certain ailments and things like that. And they will still hunt for bushmeat and utilize the resources that the land provides to them. But nowhere at this point has got to the point where people live truly outside of access to civilization. And even we will rely on aspects of this environment if we need to. I've tested medicinal cures of plants before and found them to be really successful. The best one is the red spike thorns, which I'll grab as soon as I go past one. Actually, here's a good example. Is that a spike thorn? Yeah, that's a young spike thorn. Let me just grab some leaves and I'll show you what I mean. Brian, are you in or not?
I'm in.
You're in? Okay. Something we do on the odd occasion is stop to eat, and I actually saw a buffalo here, so I'm going to just look around the corner. Yep. Find some nice leaves. So, spikethorn leaves are exceptionally astringent. Here you go, B-Dog. You can experiment with that. So if you eat these,
Very tasty.
oh, yuck! That was a terrible one. Essentially, what it does. Water. Where's my water gone? Essentially, what that leaf does. Hold on, I need a sip of water first. I can't talk now. Shall I be really melodramatic about this? And when I say I need some water, pull out my water container. Ooh, Brian and I are both going to have a quick sip of water. So, the reason I'm pulling funny faces is because that essentially, within a couple of bites or chews of that leaf, essentially dries up all of your saliva. You have none left in your mouth. It's a very strange feeling. It becomes a sort of a... You feel like you're never going to have spit in your mouth ever again. And it's actually a very useful plant because that effect, if you swallow those leaves, I spat mine out just because I don't need it at the moment. But if you swallow those leaves, and the prescribed dose, I have been told, is still gross, is about 3 of them. How do you feel, Brian? Are you recovering now?
Like severe cotton mouth.
That's exactly what it's like. It is like it's like cotton mouth. Like you've stuffed cotton wool in your mouth and it's absorbed every aspect of your moisture within it. So if you eat 3 of those, I wonder if the dosage differs for different people in terms of size. Never thought about that aspect before. But if you swallow 3 of those, it acts like Imodium. So if you find yourself with diarrhea in the bush, and of course that can actually be fatal, if you're stranded outside, sorry, I'm trying to see where the birds are that are making a racket. If you're stranded and lost in the bush and you find yourself with some kind of stomach bug that's giving you diarrhea, 3 of those spikethorn leaves are very, very effective at halting that particular process. Baby elephants eat them as well. So when baby elephants their teeth start to grow, just like toddlers, it makes them niggly and sore and uncomfortable. And so they go and they find themselves some spikethorn leaves. I would love to know whether babies know that instinctively or whether the adults take them specifically to go and eat those leaves. Because it acts like a painkiller. It takes away the itch and the niggle. And I certainly I'm not really feeling my tongue as well as I was before that. Hey, there's the parrots that I was trying to find you. I could hear them making a screeching sound. I'm trying to get them. Oh no, there's a green pigeon. Sorry, it's a green pigeon. Arathusa seems to be the land of the green pigeon. I'm not going to go much closer because I think he's going to fly away. Luckily, Brian's managed to get us a view. Definitely high up on the list of the most beautiful pigeons that we get out here. The African green pigeon. I also know it as the Tarzan bird because it makes a call like Tarzan. It's Tarzan's cliche, the sound he makes as he swings through the trees, which I'm not going to do. I mean, I'm quite happy to embarrass myself and sacrifice the self upon the altar of my dignity to an extent. But my attempt at imitating green pigeons is embarrassing, to say the least. Beautiful birds. Entirely arboreal, so tree-based, rather than the little doves that wander around on the ground and pick up seeds. And a diet based primarily on fruit. And just as an interesting aside, Regular viewers know that we've been speaking a lot about the giraffes targeting and eating buffalo thorns recently, and elephants. And I've just realized why. The plants are fruiting. I'm looking for an example now, but of course I picked the one patch in both Djuma and Arathusa that doesn't have a buffalo thorn, but they're fruiting at the moment. That's why the elephants and the giraffes are targeting them. Give himself a little gentle ruffle there. What is that yellow patch there? What is that? Sorry, hold on everyone. I'm going to try and get my binoculars out. Their legs are orange, and I can't quite make out what that yellow thing is, unless it's the feathers that are particularly yellow on this individual, but I've never seen that before. Interesting. I don't know what that... I wonder if that bird's not tagged. Unlikely. I haven't heard of green pigeon tagging. I guess you never know. There's no reason why I should know of every research project. Beautiful little birds, and I'm happy to see one. Add to your bird list for new viewers. You can start trying to catch up with some of our more regular viewers who are on easily over 100 in certain cases. Meantime, looking at a bird in a tree, Steph has found a mammal that likes to live in the tree. Let's pop over there.
And here's quite a rare sight to see. It's a tree squirrel that's on the ground. And this little tree squirrel is taking a big risk being on the ground. Obviously, they are safest on branches and in the trees. But I think with the food being as scarce as what it is at the moment, they're forced to come down off of the trees to come and have a look for some food and morsels wherever they can find it. Now, just recently, my son has adopted a tree squirrel as a pet, and this animal, this rogue, has the run of my house. So I'm learning about the behavior and habits of tree squirrels in the Winterboer household. And I must be honest with you, they're actually quite comical. I was against it in the beginning because these things run riot in your house. But I am enjoying this little tree squirrel immensely. This obviously is not my pet, or we are not this tree squirrel's pet, as is in the case at my house. And you can see how alert they are, full of energy, daytime active, his sharp little claws, very dexterous feet, uses them to dig and pry open, use their mouth to taste everything. They're little biters. And things that will love to snack on this tree squirrel, any number of birds of prey, snakes, and even some large lizards. The white-throated monitor will make a meal of this squirrel if it could catch it on the ground without any safe tree nearby. And will investigate minutely every little nook and cranny and hole and excavation and chamber that it can find. There we go. Bounds away, you can see, very quickly out of frame, boom, into a tree. And that's where it's most at home, is in the branches of a tree. Now, Wayne in Philadelphia has asked us, is this squirrel any different from the grey squirrel that is found where he lives? Wayne, probably not, apart from the fact that it's a different species, of course, and maybe your grey squirrel is a bit bigger or smaller, different color, I'm not too sure. But essentially, all the squirrels here will exhibit very similar behaviors to your squirrels in North America, barring the fact that it doesn't hibernate. These squirrels will absolutely larder food as well as your squirrels do. And And they do that just on the off chance that there's going to be a food shortage. The only difference is that these squirrels won't have to hibernate. It doesn't get that cold here. Have a look at him just leaning over the branch over there, surveying his domain. My squirrel absolutely doesn't believe he's a squirrel. He believes that he's a 10-foot tall Rottweiler. And I have no doubt that this squirrel thinks exactly the same of himself. Very alert creatures, and quite often we find leopard because these squirrel are giving their chittering alarm call at the leopard. Leopard will prey on squirrel. I've seen them prey on squirrel quite a few times. Especially young leopard make the most of every hunting opportunity, and squirrel are high up on their list of prey animals to hunt. And because of that, squirrels definitely have an ingrained fear of leopard. They'll also have a fear of caracal and serval. They will definitely shout at falcons and hawks and eagles. And of course snakes. Look at that face. Very human-like ears. Keep on reminding myself how very similar to my ears this squirrel that I have is. Obviously large protuberances from the side of my head, which not a scrap of hair covers or hides in any way. Now this squirrel is staring intently at some zebra. I'm just going to pan across slightly. We finished having a look at him. And there are some zebra just across from Treehouse Dam. Enjoying the grass next to the water. There's a youngster on the far left-hand side of the screen, a foal. And that foal, it's quite interesting. I want to see if he's eating grass or he's licking the sand. He's busy giving himself a scratch, and he's nibbling on that coarse grass there. Not really needing to at the moment. He's just doing that because, very similar to the wildebeest, they are precocial. In other words, they copy mommy, or amongst other things, they copy mom and dad intently. And he's obviously, this little young foal is watching the adults crop at the grass, and so now he must crop at the grass. That is exactly what he's busy doing there, is copying. And that's it's a defining trait of a precocial baby. Now have a look at this giraffe, giraffe, listen to what I'm saying. This zebra right in the middle. This morning we were talking about sexing giraffe using the vertical stripe under the tail. And this one here, for those of you who weren't watching this morning, under the tail, if the stripe is a nice thick stripe like that one is, at least 3 fingers wide, then it's a female. If it's a pin stripe, less than a finger wide, then it's a male. So that's a female with they're all got fairly big bellies at the moment, and they are beautifully clean. Especially the zebra on the far left behind the foal. Just hold on there, Tep. Sorry, I just want to... The Burchell zebra, or the plain zebra as you're seeing, is the only zebra to exhibit the shadow stripe. Now those zebra on the left-hand side have the shadow stripe, so there's a thin, almost smudged stripe between the bold black and white stripes. The zebra on the left has no shadow stripe. There's just 1 or 2 on the rump. For the rest of it, the zebra on the left has a very plainly striped coat. Very striking for me, the coats without the shadow stripe. I enjoy them a lot more. Other people enjoy having the shadow stripe because it looks so different from other zebra that they've seen. The Hartman zebra and the Cape Mountain zebra all have just plain black and white stripes. The shadow stripe marks the Burchell zebra out as unique, or the plain zebra out as unique. Sorry, Tebs, you're welcome to do what you were going to do there. I hijacked your shot. And there you go. Young foal, and probably his mom. From this distance, quite difficult to tell. It's definitely a female. The adult I'm talking about now. The youngster, very difficult to sex at this age. Looks like she's lactating. I can see her mammary glands just there, tucked in underneath her back legs on her tummy. And they look fairly swollen. Now, although there are not tens of thousands of zebra here in the Sabi Sands, it's just not an area that's conducive to large herd sizes. Definitely in some areas in Africa, 5,000 or 6,000 miles away from here, you get the Masai Mara and the Serengeti, which have hundreds of thousands of zebra all conglomerating with another. And believe it or not, but zebra can recognize one another's stripes. A mommy zebra will recognize her baby zebra stripes above all other babies, and vice versa. And if one of them had to suffer an accident, like being eaten by a lion or something like that, they are not fostered by others. So mommy zebra only look after their babies and no others. And have a look at that. That is one of the theories around why the zebra have stripes. See how the baby blends into the mother's coat. Not so much now, but definitely when the youngster was standing in front of the mom. A bit of a breeze that's just kicked up here. Zebra can eat a very wide range of grass species. Oh, look at that. Give me a bit of a play. You can see there what I was meaning about the zebra, the baby's profile being broken up against the mother. One of the theories as to zebra having stripes is exactly that. They help one another bedazzle a lion or a predator, a potential predator, making it very difficult for a predator to single out any one specific target, thereby enabling the zebra to get up to speed and get away from predators. They can run very, very quickly and quickly outrace most predatory cats. Me personally, I'm more for the theory of it just looks pretty and the females have chosen stripy horses over plain horses because it's prettier. Pamela has asked, how would a baby zebra and a baby elephant get along? Would they play with one another? Pamela, you know what? I'm going to actually answer that question with a yes. Both zebra foals and elephant foals, elephant calves, are incredibly playful with one another of their own species. And they're also inquisitive around other species. Zebra foals grow up with any number of different mammals, from wildebeest to impala to kudu, in close proximity to them, and don't seem to be perturbed or put off by them whatsoever. And elephant calves are absolutely known to investigate almost anything. Very inquisitive, very playful. So I'll probably go out on a limb here and say yes. Not under all circumstances, of course, and it would be rare to see them interacting like that. But I definitely think it is possible. Now, zebra are very good at eating short grass, and that's what they're nibbling on at the moment. Obviously, being this close to Treehouse Dam, the vegetation around Treehouse has been quite heavily browsed and grazed. But that doesn't seem to be putting off the zebra. They have the lips and the teeth capable of cropping grass almost down to the root level, very similar to hippopotamus and warthog in actual fact. Animals they share some close relationship to. And Monique is in London, and good afternoon Monique, has asked another question that incites a little bit of discussion. Would the herd help to defend the foal, or would the only defense mechanism be to run away? Now Monique, the primary defense mechanism of a zebra would be to run away. When and where possible. Should the baby be caught or should an adult be caught, I have absolutely seen the mother of those foals come in to trample and stamp and kick and bite at predators, even lion. Not as often, but even lion. And I've also seen the herd stallion come and to the defense of not only his own foal, but also of females. Come running in at particular jackal, cheetah, sometimes wild dog, leopard, and sometimes lion. And then why I said it was quite an interesting point, and why the discussion is an interesting discussion, is because I've also seen male zebra kick to death foals. And what generally is the cause for this is that a mother is killed overnight by lion or by whatever, and in the morning, because there is no fostering of babies, the baby starts to get hungry, or the baby starts to call for the mother, which elicits unnecessary or unwarranted attention onto the herd. And it's quite bizarre. We've actually seen it on Wild Earth before, but it's quite bizarre that the herd stallion will come and kick to death a baby who's drawing unwarranted attention. So in one way, yes, the herd is protective of one another. In another way, or another sense, they are quite intolerant of certain behaviors, as I've used as an example. So good question there, Monique. I probably confused you a lot more there than what I meant to. Their coats are very short. Their hair is quite dense. And that short coat and dense fur allows for that bold stripy pattern to occur. And because it's warm here almost year round, zebra, and wherever zebra occur, zebra have this unique stripy pattern, which you got to admit is one of the most bizarre patterns on any of the animals out here. The only animals that rival zebra in terms of stripy patterns are birds. I think birds and insects are having bizarre patterns, and in birds and in insects, it's all reproductive selection that determines the stripes and the patches and whatnot. Hence me believing that I don't think there's any Neon Tiger's asked an interesting question. Have any other color zebra ever been spotted? For instance, an albino zebra? And I'm just going to add on to that, Neon Tiger. I'm going to add on to the fact that you may see a melanistic or a black zebra as well. In mammals, albinism, leucism, and melanism is definitely found. And I'm sure you will find white zebra and black zebra and a whole host of colors in between. I have never personally seen one, but I'm sure that they do occur. If you can find a photo of one that isn't an obvious hoax, you're welcome to post it to us on our social media platforms. They tend to get quite lively with things like this and discussions like this, and see if anyone else can find it. Hey, zebra have now obviously come down for a drink here at Treehouse Pan. even though it hasn't rained again, unfortunately, it has been overcast for the last 3 days or so, and the sun hasn't been able to beat down, which has let the water stay and seep into the mud here around Treehouse. I just saw there was a terrapin that was in the water there. He's now swum off. But what amazes me is that there wasn't a drop of water here a week ago. Now there is, and all of a sudden we're finding terrapins. And literally the closest water to here a week ago was about 2 kilometers from here at Djuma. That terrapin was either hiding in the mud here somewhere, or walked 2 kilometers from Djuma just to come back to Treehouse. There are so many things that we don't know about the bush. It's just fascinating. And Dr. Debbie, having a look at the pan here, obviously, or having a look at the giraffe that we were looking at with all the ticks and the parasites, has asked, are leeches a problem for animals that spend a lot of time in the water? Yes, I would have to say. Where have I encountered leeches before? In South Africa, I've encountered leeches in a few dams and a few rivers in South Africa. I haven't encountered any leeches in the Okavango Delta or here in the Sabi Sands, for that matter of fact. I've swum in most rivers and dams around here. So I can't really say from personal experience, Dr. Debbie, I haven't seen leeches hanging on animals. However, you do find terrapins picking at things on buffalo that lie in water. So that's actually a good question. I don't actually know the answer to that question, Dr. Debbie. I'm sure leeches are a problem for any animal that inhabits a moist area. The area where we're in at the moment is very dry and susceptible to droughts, and I don't think because of that leeches are very prevalent out here. I think the closer you get to Central Africa, leeches become more of a problem, and the more swampy areas, Okavango Delta, the Busanga Plains, I can't remember what those other swamps are in eastern Zambia, and then you start going into tropical Africa where leeches are a huge problem. Brent Leo Smith will be able to tell you about his Gabon experience, and I'm sure he can horrify you with enough leech stories to make you never want to go there. But so yes, leeches are a problem for any mammal or any blood-carrying animal in areas where they are found. I can only imagine that would be the same here. However, there's not a lot of leeches here because it is an area susceptible to drought. So I hope that answered your question. All right, these zebra are moving off. I think it is a good indication that we can do the same. My immobilizer is immobilizing me at the moment, so we're going to have to go over to Jamie at some point so that Sips and I can start the car and take you to some other spectacle. In the meantime, have a look at the clouds that are busy building up over here. Our rain generally doesn't come from this area. Our rain comes from this area off to the east, and as you can see, there are clouds almost everywhere around us, but the thicker bank of cloud is definitely off to our west. And unfortunately, we get only rain really here from the east and the south. That's where we get our most rain from, and then we get our heaviest storms from the north. Not very many storms from the west. It's not to say that we won't get storms, but please put your hands together that this weather system is coming in from the east and is bunching up against the Drakensberg Mountains and will eventually shed some load on us. Jamie is ready to give you an update and to tell you a little bit about us, which will allow us to start the car and move off on something else. And I'm sure we'll catch up with you in a minute or 2 or 10 or 15 or whenever we see you again.
Well guys, I'm going to leave you to watch this dung beetle for one moment because someone's trying to contact me on the Game Drive channel. Standing by. Okay, copy. But you haven't got to see if she's crossed Buffelshoek boundary yet. Okay, copy, perfect, thanks. I'm just at WildEarthTV main access now at the link road. I'll come and join you. Oh, be careful, little buddy. I love watching the way that they roll their dung balls along. Oh, going to one of the busiest roads within the Sabi Sands. He's moving straight towards the Triple M boundary, and he's making me very nervous as he does it. So I've raced up here because we've just had a report that a female leopard, and I strongly suspect that it's Karula, and Taxon agrees with me, judging by the tracks, that she crossed from Simbambili, One-Eyed Pan, across to WildEarthTV. Taxon's just got her tracks now, and he's on his way to follow up on where she's gone. So she's heading towards Buffelshoek boundary. Hopefully, fingers crossed, she doesn't cross, and I'm actually going to go now. I'm going to see if she, just in case she's on the move still, because it is cool, she might be on her way. I'm just going to turn this radio down. Oh, there's another dung beetle. Drive around it. Sorry, I would have loved to have sat and watched that little dung beetle at work, but I want to follow up here and figure out exactly where it is that Karula went from. In fact, I'm going to keep this turned up. So they picked her tracks up on a very large elephant path, which I think is here. Taxon is driving along to the Buffelshoek boundary. I'm going to take Sandy Patch, I think, just in case she decides to do one of her interesting Karula moves, which is to go the opposite direction to the way you expect her to go in. Between the two of us, I'm sure we should be able to pick up on her. Steph has really kindly offered to help. Let's just see how we go in terms of if Taxon picks up the tracks crossing Buffelshoek boundary. If not, then I think it'd be a great idea, since we haven't seen Karula in such a long time, or what feels like a very long time. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Cool. Okay, so they've got her. I just need to figure out where exactly there is. Here we go. Here we go. Yay! It's so exciting. We haven't seen Karula in such a long time. Where's she gone? And here is vehicle moving. Thank you, Tex. Can I join you? Awesome stuff. You've seen her yet, Brian? No, okay. Maybe you'd seen her. Oh, there she is. And she's up. Yay! How awesome is this? So cool. What a treat. Hello, Karula. Looking nice and full-bellied. I'm fairly certain it's Karula. Honestly, I haven't seen her face properly just yet. Oh, walking straight behind the other vehicle. There she pops out there. Awesome stuff. Hey, Brian and I said we had a good feeling about this afternoon sunset safari. Okay, now it becomes a bit tricky. This is a very thick block, so you'll have to bear with us as we negotiate this block. Hello, Karula. Sorry, girl. I'll stop here. She's scent marking. And it's something that we see quite regularly with the big cats after a rainy day. They will scent mark, come back and replace all of their scent markings that they had that have been washed away. She's looking very full. Is a nice big belly that she's got there. I'm just going to move out of Taxon's way since he did very kindly find a leopard for us. Which way is she going to go up this termite mound? She's going to go that way. Nope, she's going to go the other way. Nope, she's going to go straight over it. Hello, gorgeous. And there's her tip of that white tail working furiously as it always does. I'm not sure if it's my imagination or the time I've spent with her, but she seems to have one of the most active tail tips that I've ever met or encountered in a leopard. It's always moving. Having a sniff. And a foot scrape. Definitely scent marking. And of course, there's always the possibility that her daughter Shadow has been through here. We're right on the boundary between those two leopards' territories. Watch out, Brian, I don't want to pierce you with a buffalo thorn. We are coming to a really densely vegetated area. It's the drainage line around Sandy Patch. You have to bear with us a moment as we bottleneck through the bushes. Trying to find us a more open way through, and I don't think I can. So have to be very careful of the virtual reality rig here. It should be okay if I do it like this. Okay there, B-Dog. Lost sight of her. I'm just waiting for Taxon to move through. Taxon's still got her. I just had to wait for him to move over a particular obstacle so that we can go as well. I've said that we've got the Queen of Djuma walking through. And Alice in Ohio, who wanted to know how Karula became the Queen of Djuma. And whoop, I'm busy following Taxon, and I think he's choosing a different no, he's going that way. Alice, Karula is one of the most extraordinary leopards. She has the largest area in the Sabi Sands, and the reason she's Queen of Djuma is because Djuma is absolutely central to the core part of her territory. She's also been one of the most successful leopard mothers that I personally have ever heard of. She's raised so many successful litters of cubs. She's only 11, coming up to 12 in the next few months. And she was known from the days, her mother was actually known to some of our more regular viewers. Her name was the Safari Female Leopard. She was missing an eye, and her story was followed even at that point. I think Taxon might have lost visual of her. Sorry guys, I just need to have a quick chat with some of the guides, see if they've seen her. So I think she might have pulled a Karula on us. How's it, Aubrey? Good, thanks. Did you see her, or is she still coming through? Awesome. What we're going to do now, I think, is just wait for a moment and see where she pops out. There we go, they've got her. Copy, thanks. There she is. Does that look like shadow to you? It's really difficult to see. She's hidden. Come on, girl, look at me. Look at me. Nope, it's not Karula. Sorry, everybody, that is definitely not Karula. That's shadow. Shadow. It took me a moment to, as we were driving through the bush, but that face is not familiar to me. Guys, I've just got to reposition so that Aubrey can make his way in here as well. Might be a bit tricky. That's definitely shadow. Awesome to see her. I haven't seen her even longer than it's been since I saw Karula, so I'm equally excited. So for new viewers, Shadow is Karula's daughter. So Shadow is her 9-year-old daughter. She would have been one of her first, part of her first litter. And in comparison to what I was saying about Karula, I said that Karula was the Queen of Djuma, one of the most successful leopard mothers that I've certainly ever encountered. But unfortunately, Shadow has had far less success in that respect. And at 9, she's only managed to raise one litter that we know of to over a year old. So, I don't know what the reason for that is. I personally don't think it's got anything to do with her mothering skills. I think it's more to do with she's just been incredibly unlucky. Hold on one moment, I want to just chat to Orbs. Orbs, if you want to come you shop. Thank you. And we will just all take turns, and usually you'll find that we'll be able to reposition and get a better view in a few moments. But yes, Shadow, I think, has just been exceptionally unfortunate. But as I said, this is the boundary between mother and daughter's territory in this particular case. Look at that belly. Looking very big. wandering through. I'm going to let Aubrey go ahead of us here because his guests haven't had a good chance to view her. And while I do, as we watched her walk away, that little white tail flicking, I see that Gorilla has a very active tail. Apparently so does Shadow, because that was Shadow we were watching. And Monique, you were wondering, you wondered if we could explain a little bit more about those tail flicks. As you said that, how does she stop the birds from alarm calling? And I know exactly what you mean, because those white tails are pretty much the most obvious. Ooh. That's embarrassing. Just pretend I didn't stall. The white tail is one of the most obvious things. It's the first thing you see on a leopard. Where's she gone? Where's she gonna pop out? Sorry, Monique. I promise I'm gonna get back to your question. I'm just concentrating for a second. This is where it gets a little bit tricky. So awesome to see Shadow again. Guys, what I'm going to do for now, if you don't mind, is just send you over to Steph. We've got a lovely bird to show you, but I promise we'll be back as soon as we get a good view of Shadow again. Just gives me some time to concentrate.
We just thought we'd steal you away from Shadow for a couple of seconds while we have this fantastic view of a woodland kingfisher sitting out in the open and quite still on a branch here. There we go. And I'm so glad that we got to show that to you, because usually they don't stick around for long whatsoever. So that was a woodland kingfisher, and using the exposed branch to hunt on for a little bit. And I'm very, very happy that we got to show that to you. As far as I know, you're sitting with Shadow, and she is on the move, and it's giving Jamie some time to reposition her car. Now, the other day, Brent and I were on a walk, and we found, or what Brent believes to be, a half-collared kingfisher nest. And I'm going to be taking the river route now back to Gowrie Main, and I want to go see if we can see this half-collared kingfisher. If you think that the wood kingfisher has some electric blue on it, the half-collared kingfisher has equally as much. Alright, let's carry on going. Myself and Jamie left camp this afternoon thinking that we needed to find a leopard, and it just felt right for a leopard this afternoon. There was just that energy that you get on a leopard afternoon. Even after 17 years, I have yet to define what gives me that leopard feeling, or Jamie for that matter of fact, but we had it. Shadow. We've been looking forward to seeing a leopard for quite a number of days. Now, kingfishers, especially half-collared kingfishers and the grey-hooded kingfisher, nest in the banks of rivers like this. Not in this bank, one next to us here, and I'm going to be sneaking up on this bank. It is here that we were standing. I never saw the bird myself, but Brent shouted out, "Hey, look, there's this kingfisher." He's been back once or twice, and he's actually seen the bird on a number of occasions. I just thought that it's high time that I saw it. The signal that it now, in this bank in front of us, right here, is I'm just going to be approaching it very slowly. I'm scanning every bush and branch that I can. And hear a rattling testicular and see a female redback shrike. Now the nest in question that we're talking about is one of these holes, one of these excavations, one of these few I'm going to be showing you right now. It's one of these two here. One of these two excavations is that kingfisher. Seems to have moved on, or is inside the hole, or is otherwise occupied, because I can't see a single thing, which is not uncommon. Completely, we're going to send you through to